So in order to get the Moonlight Sword in the first King's Field game, the Japanese one, first you have to find the Dragon Sword, which you find on the 4th floor by a grave. Then you take the Dragon Sword and you give it to this fairy on the 5th floor. It's like a room before the final boss, and what she does, she's gonna make it upgrade it to the Moonlight Sword and then just drop it like a piece of shit on the ground for you to pick up. Compared to all the other weapons, the Moonlight Sword is the fastest, and to be able to use the sword magic, you need to be level 25 and to have your magic stat at 80. And then you just have to press triangle and square at a certain timing, like mid-swing, to activate it. It's pretty straightforward to get the Moonlight Sword in King's Field 2. What you have to do is get to the final boss and then stay close to the final boss. He'll be attacking you, and then at some point he's going to extend his neck and pull you back and throw you on his back, and that way you can go behind him and actually grab the Moonlight Sword. And once you do that, all you have to do is just jump off, die, and then you'll be resurrected at the fountain and you'll have the sword with you. So just like in the Japanese King's Field, in King's Field 2 you have to have a magic stat of 60 to be able to use the sword magic of the Moonlight Sword. And there's an interesting change that they made in this game, is the fact that there are actually 2 skills that you can use. So to be able to activate one of them, you have to press square and then triangle at the middle of the swing. And then for the other one, you have to start with pressing X, and then you wait a little bit, square, and then triangle also at the mid swing to activate the second one. It's kind of pretty hard, but once you get used to it, you'll be able to do it all the time. So in the third game of the King's Field series, it's actually pretty difficult to get the Moonlight Sword. So the first thing is you're going to start with the Crystal Sword or the X-Selector, which you'll have to level up to level 3. Then after that, you'll need 3 items: the Eyes of Icarus, which you find in the Forest of Varde, and then the Wings of Icarus, which you find at Village of Kaysen. And finally, the Crown of Icarus, which you find at the Caves of Garen. At this point, your Crystal Sword should be at level 3, and then all you have to do is go back to Leon and give him all the 3 items and your sword, and he'll make you the Key of Icarus. So all you have to do is wait a little bit, and after some time, you come back to Leon's house, and you'll see that he's gone, and he left you the sword, which is now level 1, and you will have the key. Once you have that key, you have to go to the Ruin of the High Elves and use it to open up portals, and from there you have to look through the air until you find a portal that will take you to the Temple Maze of Furlan, which is one of the coolest places in the game. It's a very huge area, and you'll have to kind of find your way through it, and you'll have to use the Aladdin keys, which kind of reminds me of the stuff that are in Dark Souls 2, or use the Ferris Lock stones. Maybe you can see a lot of similarities from Dark Souls 2 in this area, in terms of where you have to find these keys, and you can get more than one and use them to open up paths or doors or secret areas. So once you're done with the maze, you'll find a portal that will take you to the next place, which is the Place of Beginning, And there's like a lot of treasure that you can find or armor sets, but the most important thing that you want to get there is the pixie fossil or the fairy fossil that you'll need to make the Moonlight Sword. So the next step is to go to the Hell of Prayer and find the broken Moonlight Sword, which you'll find like surrounded by a force field. So all you have to do is just walk in there and just pick it up. So once you have the Moonlight Sword, you're going to go pass through there, and then you get to the Verdak Castle. You're going to find a portal that will take you to the Royal Cemetery, which kind of looks like a place from Kingsfield 1, the Japanese game. So if you've played the first game, you'll be familiar with this area because it's basically the same place, same monsters, same enemies, and you'll also be able to get the Seath Sword. And once you go and venture through the area, you're going to get to like several portals, which will take you to a place that kind of looks like the area where you fought the final boss. And at this point, you would need to use the Fossil Fairy, and I'm not sure if I had the Phantom Crown equipped or not, but you might need that too to be able to access the Invisible Bridge and then go to Gyra to make you the Moonlight Sword. So the sword magic in this game is a little bit different. You don't have access to it until you learn it. So what you have to do is go to the Verdak Castle at the fountain and use Lynn's ring to be able to talk to Alexander, who will teach you how to use the sword magic for all the weapons. So in Kingsfield 3 or Kingsfield 2, you have actually two types of sword magic that you can use. The first one is the square and triangle mid-swing, and then the other one is X square and triangle at a certain timing to be able to activate it. This game features two different versions of the Moonlight Sword, so in order to get the final version of the Moonlight Sword, all you have to do is go find King Alfred, and once you defeat him, he will change your Moonlight Sword to the stronger version of it. So the second version of the Moonlight Sword is actually stronger and has a different sword magic than the original one. And the way you use it is similar, square and triangle mid-swing, and then X square and triangle at a certain timing to be able to activate it. And I mean, it takes a little bit of time, but it's easy to get used to. I mean, if you played all the games, you'll notice that there's a difference in the sword magic, like timing between all of them, and they're all different. They're not the same. So the next game in the series is Kingsfield 4 or Kingsfield the Ancient City, and what you have to do to get the Moonlight Sword is first, you have to get to the Widow's Castle and beat the Widow's Queen to be able to get her key. Once you obtain the widow's key, you'll have to go find a dungeon cell there where you can use the key to open up a cell, and there you'll find the lawful blade on a corpse. Which is pretty much a useless weapon at its current form. So as you go through the game, you'll be collecting different kinds of keys, and you'll get to a point where you'll see, like in the Earth Fork area, there's like these 4 different treasure chests that require special keys, and once you have all the keys, you'll be able to open them and get these eyes that you'll need to open the door for the Moonlight Sword. So once you have the sword and the eyes, and then you go through the Passage of Light and beat all the armored knights, you're gonna come to the King's Mausoleum. Then finally you get to use those eyes to open the door that will take you to a place that looks like a forest that has this like little circle in it where you're going to put the lawful blade, and it's going to be transformed into the Moonlight Sword. So before you can use the sword magic in King's Field 4, what you have to do is level up your sword up to level 3, which I don't know, takes like 400 or 500 swings. But there's a pretty cool area right next to like the King's Mausoleum where you use the Ring of Wisdom to fight these infinite amount of skeletons until you can get your weapon to be level 3. So in King's Field 4, there's only one sword magic that you can use, and it's used differently than the other games. You have to like press X and square together and then triangle. So for King's Field Edition, all you have to do is progress to through the game at a certain point. I mean, there's nothing special you have to do. You just have to like follow the quest line. Then you're gonna get to meet your commander, who's gonna be holding the Moonlight Sword. All you have to do is like defeat him, and then you get the sword, and that's basically it. There's no special requirements as what your magic stat is at or level should be to use sword magic. All you have to do is just go through your inventory and select it as your magic, and then all you have to do is like press triangle in a fight scene to cast like the sword magic. So finally, the final game in the King's Field series, which is King's Field Additional 2, to be able to get the Moonlight Sword, it's actually very difficult to, and it's easily missable throughout the game. So what you need to do first is beat the final boss in King's Field Additional 1, and then once you defeat him, like, you'll be prompted to save the game, so you have to save the file, and then start King's Field Additional 2, and then you have to, like, load the file into the game. And once you start playing through the game, you have to make sure that you go to the tavern and speak to every NPC that you find there to make sure that you progress through their stories. Because if you don't do that, then you'll miss the Moonlight Sword at the end of the game. So the most important people that you're going to meet through the tavern are the soldiers, which are basically on an expedition, and you have to kind of progress through their stories. So you have to make sure like to speak with them at any chance you find them in the labyrinth or see them in the tavern to progress the story and make them move from one location. Some other people that you will talk to at the tavern will move into the other location that you should try to visit as much as you can are the streets, so you can talk to the NPCs there. You'll find the widow, and sometimes you'll find this fat kid and fat girl there as well that would ask their father to go and find them some kind of fruit, which you're going to give him that fruit, then he's going to eat it and die, and then you give the fruit to the kid as well, and the kid would also die, and both of them will turn into plants. So anyway, as you progress through the game, you'll meet those soldiers or those mercenaries that are on an expedition. You're going to help them fight off a boss. Or sometimes you would have to help them like reunite with their general in the sewer area. So once you get to the secured depths, you'll notice that at some point like these mercenaries or soldiers are going to start dying off. And then once you talk to them and talk to their general, they will tell you that they were attacked with somebody with a big sword. And that's basically should be the indicator that you've done everything to meet the requirements to get the Moonlight Sword. It's very difficult to tell what you actually need to do to get the Moonlight Sword since there are no available videos or guides to tell you what you need to do, but these are the events that I actually followed in order to get the Moonlight Sword. So first you have to make sure that you progress to the quest line of the mercenaries, and then also you have to make sure that you've loaded the first game into the second one and then progress through the story. At that point I almost gave up on it because I didn't know where to find it, but once you go through the game and then you reach the altar of the ancients, right before the final boss, you'll encounter this hooded man that you'll have to fight to get the Moonlight Sword, and that's how basically you get it. So the Moonlight Sword in the King's Field Additional series has like a light attribute, and it's the strongest sword in like both of the games. And in order to use the sword magic, you have to go through like inventory, and then you have to like find in the light magic and slot it as your magic equipment. The sword magic could actually one-hit any enemy in the game, and it also could hit them through block. And not only that, you need the Moonlight Sword to get the final ending of the King's Field Additional 2. So there you go. These are all the Moonlight Swords that you can get in all the King's Field games. I hope you guys enjoyed it.